Hello, welcome back to Buckle Up. My name is Rob Wilson and this, as I'm sure you know, is a Mercedes-Benz G-Class. And today I'm going to find out if it's any good. Right, let's start as normal at the front, and I think it would be fair to say that this is unmistakably a G-Class. Even though Mercedes redid this a few years back, it still retains all of those features that make it instantly recognizable as a G-Class slash G-Wagon, however you want to say it. But we've still got the round headlights. This time we've got some LEDs running around the outside for your daytime running lights. You still retain the silly indicators on the tops of the fenders. This didn't need to be done, but they chose to because it's fun. Bonnet sits proudly on top of the rest of the bodywork. Huge bluff front with a massive Mercedes-Benz star, your little Mercedes-Benz badge up above, huge chunky sticky out bumper like this, so if you do meet something coming the other way, then I think it should be the one that is scared. You do have some vents that aren't really vents lower down, and you can see the massive amount of ground clearance that you've got here at the front. This is still a serious off-roader. But let's go and have a look at the side, because the traditional features continue with these enormous flared sticky out arches. We've got a side step, which means I can climb in a bit more easily, and you still have push button door handles which sound unbelievable, and you do have to give it a big whack to close it. Again, sounds very old school and traditional, which I love. The wheels are 20 inches and they look tiny on here, but they're actually massive. Gives you a bit more scale as to how big this thing is. I'm 6'2", by the way. It's taller than me. That very rarely happens when I do a car review. But most of all, you can see the square shape that we've got going on here. It really couldn't be any other vehicle. You still have the band that goes around the car and sort of breaks up on each different body panel. You've still got exposed door hinges as well. It's fantastic. Anyway, at the back, again, exactly like the old G-Wagon was for, what, 40, 50 years now. Very low mounted rear brake lights, still nice and square. Got a tow hook, 3.5 tons braked. Huge spare tyre holder here, still on the back, because this is a side hinged door. And it's actually quite light and easy to use. Obviously, if you're in a multi-storey car park, it might not be the easiest to put stuff in the back. But once you're in here, it's obviously, because of the exterior, a nice square shape. There's no load lip to put stuff over. You've got a nice metallic scuff plate. You've got loads of tie down points that feel really chunky and solid. There's no weird shapes because the wheel arches are completely covered in this lovely carpeted material. This is, after all, still very luxurious, as well as being very utilitarian, or having a utilitarian background, shall we say. There's a 12 volt, there's some hooks, there's lights, there's speakers, subwoofers, there's everything that you would expect to see in a luxurious off-roader. So, with that in mind, I'm going to go and hop in the back seats and see how much room there is for someone who is quite tall like myself. Right, here in the back then, and as I mentioned, I am 6'2", or 188 centimeters tall. So in terms of leg room, this seat is set up in my driving position, and as you can see, my legs do fit behind my driving position. My knees do touch the back of the front seat, but there are some cutouts there, so it makes it a bit easier for taller people. And in terms of headroom, obviously, I think it goes without saying, this car is massive and I've got loads of headroom because it's a big box. So good mark there for the G-Class. In terms of features back here. We've got heated seats, we've got nice speakers. This is all very premium and plush materials, leather. You've got some air vents here in the middle. You do have the ability to change the temperature back here and the fan speed. You've got 2 USB-Cs, you've got a 12 volt, you've got aeroplane style seat back pockets on both of the front seats. This armrest folds down and has 2 cup holders, and the bottle of water that fits in the door pockets also fits in there as well. You do have some additional air vents up here on the B pillar, but based on where I'm currently sat from a driver's point of view, they might actually be more pointed at the driver than the passengers in the back. But you know, there's only so much you can do with this shape. It still has to be compromised in certain areas, and I'm more than fine with that. If you're in the middle seat, it is nice and wide and quite flat, so I think you're going to be fine for head and leg room actually, because the floor isn't too raised, which is nice to see. So there is actually a bit of foot room, so I think you could just about carry everyone you needed to in one of these. And you've got Isofix on both of these outer seats as well, so if you want to put a child seat in, you can. But what I think I'll do now is pop up front and see what's going on there. Right up front then, and I guess I'll start with what's right in front of me. We've got the latest Mercedes-Benz steering wheel. I absolutely love the design of this with the 2 spokes coming off each side. It just looks very nice and premium, and the buttons all work. You've got volume, phone, radio, that sort of stuff on this side, and then cruise control functions on the other side. You've got 2 big screens here. You've got one for the driver, which has got all the relevant speed and all that information directly in front of you, and then another one here in the middle, but this one is touchscreen. Now this isn't the absolute latest system, because even though this was redone a few years ago, things have moved on a lot since then, but it still works and swipes, and you can type things on it very easily. One thing that I do like, because this is a slightly older system, is that you have physical climate control, so you can still control your fan and your temperature and all of that sort of stuff from these toggle switches below these central air vents. Now, in the middle of those central air vents, you have your off-road cockpit. That's what Mercedes-Benz call it. And this is basically where you can select low range, you can turn on your locking diffs, you've got central, rear and front diffs, and they're all there numbered in the correct sequence for which you can use them. So this is a properly serious off-roader if you want to do that. I'm not going to be doing any of that today, but you'll have seen, I'm sure, many videos on the internet of these doing ridiculous bits of off-roading. In terms of some practical features, the door bins are absolutely enormous, and the bottle of water fits in these 2 cup holders there as well. You've got a wireless phone charger, another 12 volt socket there, as well as 2 more USBs. Here you've got the older system, as I mentioned, that pairs up with this, so you can still use this like a mouse if you want to, and shortcuts for your driving systems, etc. You've got a little cubby here in the center with another USB-C inside of it. You've got a glove box, which is a decent size, above which you have a proper grab handle as well. That's a nice bit of traditional design that's been carried over from the older cars. Obviously, you've got electric controls for your seats, all of the switch gear is all lovely. You've got upgraded nice tweeters for the speakers up here. It does feel luxurious in here, but still slightly utilitarian. It's very different to things like the Defender or the Ineos Grenadier. I think it definitely is moving above them in terms of luxurious features. But what I think I want to do now is take this out on the road and drive it, because I have a feeling I'm going to quite like this. Right, okay then, driving the G-Class. Well, this is certainly an occasion. I'm sat 1,000 miles in the sky, it feels like. I've got a completely, well, almost completely upright windscreen and almost vertical windows as well, so it really does feel very old school, very utilitarian. The glass goes really low as well, so, and the windows are massive, so it does actually have reasonable visibility, barring the tyre on the back window, but you do have a full suite of cameras that you can press on. Now obviously this is a big car, truck, wagon, whatever you want to call it, but because it is such a square shape and size, and I can see exactly where the corners of the bonnet are because you've got those ridiculous indicator housings that are stuck on top of the front fenders, it's not that difficult to place on the road, and it doesn't ever feel, oh, this is a bit, wide and cumbersome and whatever. It is big, but it's not scary. It's not a scary car to drive. Now, this is a G500, which is a diesel, and I was going to say that that's probably the sensible choice, but I don't think sensible is really a word you can use when you're driving a G-Class. Loads and loads of power. So we've got 440 brake horsepower there or thereabouts, 560 Newton meters of torque. It means it can go from 0 to 60 in 5.2 seconds, which is ridiculous for something that is shaped like this and weighs what this does. Top speed 130, although why would you ever want to do that? Now, obviously, there are AMG versions of this available with V8s, and those are just daft. They are silly. This is not ever going to be sporty. Even on those AMG ones, it's not a sporty driving experience. It's definitely quick in a straight line, but look, we're on some country roads here. This steering is very slow, the actual rack, so you have to do a lot of actual turning of the wheel for it to do a lot. And that's fine, because cars that this is going up against, Defender, yeah, big and cumbersome, Grenadier, that has an ancient steering system on ball bearings, so that doesn't even self-center. So this is sort of the mix of the utilitarian side of the Grenadier and then the more luxurious side of the Defender. Now I'm going to pop my foot down. Yeah, and there's the speed limit. You wouldn't ever call that slow. It's just that essentially a giant brick is doing that, is the amusing thing, and I really totally understand the concept of this car. It's not trying to be deadly serious. It's not, it is immensely capable. There is plenty of footage of this car doing ridiculous things, but it's not taking itself too seriously. I do like that, if I lock the doors, that's a really loud noise. Now, that's not because it needs to be, it's because they wanted it to sound like that, because it does just sound better and it's more fun when you press the button. The car is a laugh. In terms of ride comfort, it's quite bouncy and jiggly when you're going along uneven, broken British B roads like I'm at the minute. And around town, again, it can be a little bit crushy, but that's, compared to other cars in this class, it's not uncomfortable at all. It's so heavy that it basically just squashes the road into submission. It's like, poof, your pothole no longer exists and I will not feel it. And when you drive over a pothole, you can see it happen, but you can't necessarily feel it. You just get a little poof that comes into the cabin, and that's it. It's just a very funny car. I really am quite enamored with it, to be honest. That something like this is still being made today with your EV mandates and your stupid electronic warning systems, which, by the way, you can turn off at the push of a button, the speed warning here. You just mute it. So they've thought about that sort of stuff as well. As you can see at the minute, I'm going around this village and I'm using the augmented reality on the sat-nav. So it's using the camera at the front of the car, and it's, oh, this is going to make me sound a bit old, but if anyone remembers Midtown Madness 3 on the original Xbox, that had a similar thing where they had floating arrows and they point you in the direction that you needed to go. So I have a blue arrow on this screen and it's telling me which direction to go. I think this looks great as well. Like, just generally the styling is so mean and aggressive, especially in black. It does look full sort of drug dealer spec, which is fine by me. I think it's, you know, as I said, it's not to be taken so seriously. The engine is reasonably muted. You can still obviously hear it, but I quite like that. Again, it's quite old school in terms of how vocal the engine is. I like to be able to hear what it's doing, what it's up to. The gearbox is very smooth. I believe it's a 9-speed, so lots of gears to juggle, but it seems to do it reasonably well. See, I've put my arm up on here now. I'm fully at one with the car and what it means to be driving one. I do think that this car has a certain look with it, and it's pretty much unparalleled. The main problem, obviously, is the price, because this is going to be like £150,000 there or thereabouts, which is a not insignificant amount of money. So it's definitely more expensive than Defender, depending on the spec, obviously, and the Grenadier, but it's not an inexpensive car. But as I said, I feel like in here it does feel maybe a cut above them. Anyway, that's probably enough wittering on from me. So let's go back and I'll do a bit of a conclusion. Right then, so summing up the G-Class. Well, it is fantastically stupid, and for that I have to reward it because it is great fun. It's ridiculous, it's massive, it's so unnecessary and therefore so necessary. Who said the Germans don't have a sense of humour? Well, if you've enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, comment down below and let me know your thoughts on the G-Class. But most importantly, please do subscribe to the Buckle Up YouTube channel and ding the notification bell so you never miss one of our uploads. If you want to support what we do, you can head down to the description where there are links to all our social media pages, so please give us a follow there. You can become a member here on YouTube, or you can buy some of our merch. So thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.